Week 2 power rankings are here, and there was definitely a lot of interesting things that happened in NFL within last week, like the Bengals losing to the Patriots. Of course, couple of big injuries like the Jordan Love and freaking Puka Nacua. So there's a lot of things that happened, but like I said, a lot of things changed as well in my power rankings. So let's get into it. Starting off with my number 10 team. Last week, they were my number 17, the Green Bay Packers. And yes, of course, we all know that Jordan Love is going to be out for at least a few weeks, but I still think this team is really good. One of the things that definitely improved or impressed me with this game was how efficient we ran the ball, especially with Josh Jacobs, Emmanuel Wilson. Now, granted, Josh Jacobs did take a little bit of a slow start. But the second half was a complete ball hog, like I said in my video with the Packers and the Eagles recap. If you have not watched that, go watch that after this video. But like I said, the run game was still really good. I still really like this team a lot, of course, because they're my team. But it's going to be a really big test with Malik Willis. And we do play the Colts. It's going to be a really interesting game for sure. But as of right now, I got them at number 10. My number 9 team in my power rankings for week number 2 is the Buffalo Bills. Now, granted, the beginning of the Cardinals game last week, the first 2 quarters were definitely a little bit sus. But, of course, Josh Allen completely balled out in this game and definitely was one of the reasons why they came back in this game. Taking a look at Josh Allen's stats real quick, he was 18 for 23 with 232 yards, 2 touchdowns and no picks. And he also had 2 touchdowns on the ground with 39 yards. So he was definitely one of the reasons why they had a really strong comeback in the second half. And of course, it helps too when the Cardinals are a weaker of a team than supposed to be. Well, because, everyone has them the bottom 5 team in the NFL. But still, really impressive win, comeback. They got my number 9 team as of right now. My number 8 team of the NFL power rankings will be the Dallas Cowboys. Last week, they're number 9. And at least in my opinion, they had a really good showing against the Cleveland Browns. Now, Dak Prescott had an okay game. He had a $179 yards, a touchdown, but no turnovers. And the rushing game was sort of non-existent. But the biggest strength was definitely the defense in that game. They had 6 sacks, including Eric Kendricks and DeMarcus Lawrence for 2 each. The defense was really good. They had a couple interceptions against Deshaun Watson. They made the Browns team look like a complete fool of themselves, honestly. But Cowboys had a really good game, with all the drama in the past couple weeks with them. They are my number 8 team. The number 7 team is the Miami Dolphins, and they had a really good game against the Jacksonville Jaguars. It was really close until the end, of course, because they got a game-winning field goal, but still a really impressive game, especially with Tyreek Hill. Despite all the behind-the-scenes drama, before the game getting pulled over by the cops, and that's a complete whole nother topic. But he still had 130 yards receiving with a touchdown. Jalen Waddle had 109 yards total too. And besides those 2 wide receivers, the other ones were kind of irrelevant, but still a really good showing from Miami Dolphins. The number 6 team in my NFL power rankings is the Philadelphia Eagles. And granted, they were last week. It was my number 6 team as well. And of course, they won against the Green Bay Packers, one of the better teams in the NFC. But still, definitely a lot of question marks. If it wasn't for the Packers really shooting themselves in the foot here, they could have easily lost this game. I'm not going to lie. And the Packers also missed a field goal too, so that's minus 3 points. It was like a 41-yard field goal or something like that. But besides any of that, Saquon Barkley had a great debut for the Eagles uniform with 3 total touchdowns, 109 yards rushing, and like 23 yards receiving. The defense, again, had a couple of question marks, really, but overall, not too bad. They showed up whenever it mattered, but Saquon Barkley was definitely the highlight of this Eagles team. The Houston Texans are my number 5 team, and now, granted, this game definitely came down right to the wire, a little bit closer than I at least anticipated. CJ Stroud still had a good game with 234 yards. But the biggest player of this game was definitely Joe Mixon. He had 30 carries with 159 yards, 1 touchdown, and that's a very good debut for the Houston Texans. And a couple of wide receivers did really good, like Nico Collins. He had a $117 yards, and Stephon Diggs had 2 touchdowns. Really good debut for a game for him too. And the Texans, like I said, it's a little bit closer than I anticipated, but still a solid win against a division rival on the road. That is definitely a win-win-win for the Houston Texans. The number 4 team in this week's power rankings is the Detroit Lions. Last week they were my number 3 team, and yes, they did did win against the Los Angeles Rams, but, overall, the team played good, of course. And Jared Goff played okay. He played up to par, but the biggest player in this game was definitely Jameson Williams. He had 5 receptions with 121 yards and a touchdown. Of course, that game-winning touchdown. Like I said, the Lions played a really good game against a good team, but the Rams have a very, very good offense. They held Matthew Stafford to 317 yards. Actually, looking back at it now, it's a little bit. But he also had an interception, and then basically the run game for the Rams was kind of non-existent. So it was a win for the Lions, and they do move down, but it's just because the number 3 team, I thought, just had a little bit better of a game. Speaking of the number 3 team, the San Francisco 49ers are my number 3. They were number 4 last week, but I thought the win against the Jets was a very good one. Even with Christian McCaffrey out, Jordan Mason had a complete great game. He had 28 carries, 147 yards, and a touchdown. He had a couple of catches. This dude was all over the field watching this game. He made the Jets team look like a bag of chips, honestly. Brock Purdy played okay. He didn't have a touchdown. He didn't have an interception. He had 231 passing yards, but the defense for the 49ers was definitely there. They picked off Aaron Rodgers. They had a couple of forced fumbles. This defense was all over the place. Fred Warner, of course, literally flying all over the place. 49ers, number 3. And now number 2 team and the number 1 team are the exact same thing from the last week. Chiefs and Ravens. Ravens number 2, Chiefs number 1. And of course, they also played against each other last week, so it's kind of easy to recap this one. Lamar Jackson was quite literally all over the place. He had 273 passing yards with a touchdown, no interceptions, and he also had 122 rushing yards. Like I said, this dude was literally the whole offense. Derrick Henry didn't have too bad of a game for his debut. He had a touchdown. But, besides that, it was literally Lamar or nothing. Isaiah Likely was definitely the second best player on this offense with 111 receiving yards, a touchdown, and that second touchdown that was so close. Now, due to his feet being a little bit bigger than normal, of course, that game would have been completely different. His feet a little bit smaller, but, it is what it freaking is. Ravens still played really good, at least in my opinion, against a really hard team, the Chiefs. And yeah, that's why the Chiefs are number 1. Now, of course, like I just said, the Chiefs are number 1. And Patrick Mahomes had a nice little game. He had 290 yards, a touchdown, and an interception, but the run game was really non-existent. Isaiah Pacheco had a touchdown, but other than that, the Ravens defense definitely stopped him. Rashee Rice had a nice game, 103 yards, no touchdowns. But of course, the biggest player and the most hyped up player was Xavier Worthy. He had 2 total touchdowns. 1 receiving, 1 rushing. He had a good game overall. And the Chiefs are going to be number 1 until proven otherwise, just like I said in my other video. But that wraps up this video. If you do like it, hit that like button, comment down below your biggest reaction, your biggest take from this, because I know you guys do not agree with me 100%. But I'm out of here. Deuces.